Silent Separation by Guman, YiMei's chapter. A person's flower bloomed. Translated by Peanuts and added by Lidge. When I was 9 years old, brother Yichen, who lived next door, became my brother. I was very happy, and leaning in my mother's arms, I asked her, "Mom, is brother Yichen going to live in our house and not go back in the future?" My mother hugged me and said, "Yes. Does YiMei like it or not?" "I like it." I nodded energetically to express my joy, but I didn't understand why my mother seemed so sad. Having a brother such as Yichen was a very impressive thing, as the classmates would be envious and sometimes the teacher would treat you favorably. When I entered junior high school, my teacher looked at the attendance roll book and asked me, "Do you know Yichen?" I had nodded my head and said, "He is my brother." "Oh, I have taught him when he was in first year in junior high school. I'm rather acquainted with both of you siblings." The teacher chuckled. "Since the school's new term had just started, you will be the class monitor for the time being. The older brother was so competent, the sister should not be bad." Gradually, among the students, they knew that I am Yichen's sister. Slowly, female students began to make indirect, discreet inquiries. "YiMei, have your brother mentioned any girls in front of you?" "No," I will always reply this. "Oh, did you know that Yichen from class 3 like your brother?" Girls of this age seem to be particularly interested in this kind of things of who likes who. There were already several girls who told me which girls liked my brother. These kinds of secrets, and every time the person who liked my brother, they were all different. There seems to be a lot of girls in school who really like Yichen, but he seems not to feel anything at all. Once, when I asked him some question, I pretended to casually ask him, "Brother, do you have any girls you like? There are so many girls in my class who like you." "No," he replied, without a care in the world, and then he lowered his head to concentrate on helping me to solve some questions, not even a bit curious as to which girls like him. That afternoon, I looked at his elegant and handsome profile. My heart suddenly felt a kind of happiness that I could not understand. When I finished high school, Yichen had passed his university entrance exams for C University and had went away to A City, which is very far away from me at that time. I was not used to having one last person at home. Suddenly, it seemed so empty. During dinner, my mother reflectively filled 4 bowls of rice, and then remembered Yichen was not there and poured it back. My heart felt unsettled, and I vowed at the dinner table, "I also want to pass the university entrance exam to study in C University." My dad started to laugh. "Good, YiMei, you are so ambitious." But what was the use of just being ambitious? My grades were reasonably good, but not good enough to be admitted to C University in spite of working hard for a year. In the end, when I failed in my aspiration, I applied for N University instead. When Yichen found out on the phone that I applied for N University, he was startled and had said to me, "YiMei, you can apply for a better university." "But there are none closer to you," I quietly thought in my heart. However, when I attend university in September, I came to understand that God's plans supersede one's best laid plans. No matter how much one plans things out, life always intervenes. To my surprise, my faculty was located on the outskirts of the campus, about 2 hours' drive from C University, which is in the city center. Consequently, we could only meet during winter and summer vacation like before. During the winter vacation, when I was a freshman, I met Zhao Mosheng. I could still remember that day. I went with Yichen together to buy things needed for Lunar New Year. Lunar New Year was approaching, so the streets were filled with many people, and it was very noisy. I clearly heard someone calling Yichen's name, so I turned around to see a girl running from across the street. That was the first time I saw Zhao Mosheng, this person who later were entangled with Yichen for a lifetime. At that time, my first impression of her was fluffiness. A fluffy girl, a white wool hat wrapped in a thick wool scarf around the white shed line, leaving only a pair of dark eyes visible. Her eyes twinkled with flowing lights and overflowing colors, looking very pleasant and cute. Oh, and there were also the flurry palms holding onto Yichen's arms. She cheerfully and lightheartedly said, "Yichen, I know I would see you here. I knew it." She was holding onto Yichen's arms and chatted excitedly for a while before noticing I was standing by the side. She appeared a little puzzled, looked at me, and then looked back at Yichen. And then I heard Yichen immediately explain, "This is my sister, YiMei." I recall I have also run into Yichen's female classmates before when we were shopping together. Sometimes those female students would also be overly enthusiastic in approaching us, and then looked at me dubiously and said, "Hey, Yichen, this can't be your girlfriend, right?" Yichen's eyes would reveal his displeasure, and then those female classmates would tactfully not make this kind of joke anymore. He had never explained so anxiously before. After she heard what was said, she immediately smiled at me, looked a little bit pleased, and said, "Hello, my name is Zhao Mosheng, your brother's girlfriend." For a split second, my train of thoughts went blank. I completely did not know how to react. I could only stare blankly at her. She seemed to be scared by my reaction and did not know what to do. So she immediately turned around and looked at Yichen. Yichen pulled away her hand and repented her. "You have dashed around madly just now. Didn't you see the red light?" Oh, after experiencing a setback, her mood immediately became downcast. She lowered her head and kicked on the paving slab. "I was too happy because I didn't really expect to see you. You had refused to give me your home phone number, so I have no option but to walk around on the street to try my luck. I've already been wandering on the street for several days." The more she talked, the lower her voice, and all of a sudden, she ruthlessly stepped on Yichen's foot, turned around, and ran away. "I'm leaving." Yichen was probably stunned by her stamping as he stood still without moving, so I pulled at him. "Let's go." After taking 2 steps, he turned his head around, so I also followed his gaze to look backward. That girl was looking at us from a distance. When she saw us looking at her, she seemed to panic for a moment, and then she pretended to be calm, turned around, and walked away. I clearly felt Yichen was a bit stiff, a kind of mood I've never seen before flash in his eyes, and then he put down the bag he was holding. "YiMei, you wait here for me." He did not wait for me to answer, but took a step forward to chase after her. It seems I've only waited for about 10 minutes, but every second felt very long. When he came back, I casually asked him, "Yichen, didn't you say that before you don't intend to find a girlfriend in the university?" But just a moment ago, the way you act obviously conveyed your tacit acknowledgement." "It's because he sighed. "She is extremely clingy. Previously, there were also a lot of girls who took the initiative, so maybe this one was especially clingy." With such a thought, I seemed to find an excuse to justify my bad impression of that girl. Many years later, when I recalled this scene, only then would I remember the things I've deliberately ignored, such as when saying those words, Yichen's eye had a faint smile. I felt unhappy celebrating this Lunar New Year. After the Lunar New Year, when university started, I was given a pleasant surprise. This happened after I knew Yichen had a girlfriend, so I was not sure if this could still be considered a nice surprise. Finally, our entire business school moved to the main campus, which was separate from C University by only a street. Zhao Mosheng and I became so-called good friends, according to her. While walking in C University, she often held onto my hand with one hand and then clapped Yichen's arms with her other hands. "Yichen, you walk a little slower since YiMei can't keep up." Yichen probably couldn't take it anymore. "If you don't hold onto her, she will be able to walk quicker." She turned to look at me with grievance. "YiMei, you are so gentle and soft, but why is your brother so fierce? both of you, brothers and sisters, have very different personality and also look different. Is it because one takes after the father and the other is like the mother? I looked doubtfully at Yichen and caught sight of his unnatural look for a split second, which immediately returned to normal. Yichen had never mentioned personal stuff to her. I immediately made this judgment. My mood inexplicably improved. I was the only one who knew this secret. I did not know what I was thinking, but gradually we became closer. She also started to enjoy dragging me to go shopping with her and called me to say some things which Yichen would be too slow-wit to understand. When it was my birthday, she wanted to give me a birthday cake. Hence, she took me to the cake shop and asked me what flavor I like. I said chocolate. Her face immediately had a big smile and she happily held onto my hand. I also like chocolate. YiMei, we have similar tastes. What similar taste? I merely saw her looking comfortably at the chocolate cake a few times. How she treated me, it could be considered very good. Most of the time though, I was her lifesaver. For example, like right now. YiMei, I'm in big trouble because I only got 59 marks on my English test. The voice over the phone was very despaired. I comforted her, but my heart felt very upset. There were so many girls who were very good in English and who were very good in their studies like Yichen, but why did he choose Mosheng? I am dead meat, as Yichen would certainly scold me, she said in a very depressed mood. He should have just dumped you. Such a notion flashed through my mind like lightning. I was frightened by such a train of thought, as how could I have such an evil thought? How many marks did you get? She asked me. 87 marks. That is awesome to get such an outstanding result. YiMei, you are too amazing, she said excitedly. Oh, that's right. Yichen also achieved outstanding results in level 6 English. Let's have dinner together tonight to celebrate both of you scoring so high. 2 out of 3. We have won. Her voice didn't sound upset over her poor marks anymore. During dinner, Yichen really didn't look good, not even a bit happy for achieving such an outstanding result in level 6 English. I could more or less understand his feelings. He was the one who tutored Mosheng in English, but she did so poorly now. My brother, who always is a perfectionist, probably felt more of a failure than Zhao Mosheng. I naturally helped Zhao Mosheng to say a few good words, such as this was the first time she took the test and so on, in spite of my disapproval. After Yichen looked a little bit more at ease, she only dared to complain in a low voice. I really dislike English. The rules are not in order. Anyway, I don't need to go abroad in the future, so learn this for what? Several years later, when recalling Mosheng's words, it seems life can be so unpredictable that it's hard to say what would happen later. After dinner and strolling for a while, I felt like going home. When I was walking past the university gate, I only remembered the reference material Yichen had helped me to borrow were put into Zhao Mosheng's bag for convenience sake. The materials were needed for class tomorrow, so I decided to go back to get them. In order to be quicker, I took a shortcut via a quiet garden to get there. The quiet garden was the university's well-known couple garden. And although I was mentally prepared I might run into a few lovebirds, I was nevertheless shocked to see a couple who was so engrossed in kissing to be oblivious to their surroundings. I felt embarrassed, so I walked at the side and turned the corner into a bypath to avoid them. This route was more quiet. I already started to feel a little regret for taking the shortcut and merely wanted to bow my head and pass through the quiet garden quickly. However, while I was walking past a few big rocks, my footstep inexplicably stopped. As if being driven by something, I turned my head and looked over at the rocks. Under the dim and faint moonlight, he was hugging her. She was sitting on his lap, and he was kissing her. That night, I dreamed of Yichen. Some confusing and disjointed scenery. A bridge archway we used to pass when we returned from school as kids. Yichen and I sheltering from the rain under the bridge archway. Then suddenly we were home. That breezy afternoon, he was listening to the English language lesson with his eyes closed. Initially, I wanted to ask him some question, but I ended up standing at the doorway for a long time, staring in a daze at him. Finally, I stood in the alley in the quiet garden again, looking at her snuggle up to him. Her head resting against his chest, she grabbed and played with his fingers. He let her indulge in it, and they were so quiet around each other, not even a sound. A moment later, he was a little impatient and turned his hands to grab her into his arms. He lowered his head and kissed her gently once again. "'Tis for the first time I realized that you could actually feel heartache in a dream, and it could be so painful to the extent of waking you up